CaveTalk.com, the Cave Talk Radio app, Facebook and YouTube Live. It's great to have you aboard, Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. First and foremost, it's the opening rant, and, well, I got two things to rant about today. One is more topical, the other is bigger picture. So let's start with the topical. Lovie Smith, I am convinced beyond any doubt that he was fired yesterday for winning. Like, there's no question in my mind, had he lost yesterday's game, he would still be the coach of the Houston Texans today. I think he got fired for winning and thus costing them the number one overall pick. There have been insinuations by Flores and others that this specific team was incentivizing and almost demanding losing at times. And this really circumstantially confirms those accusations for me. I mean, because realistically, think about this. This is his first year, right? They just hired him. This is a team going into the year that knew it wasn't going to be good. They weren't. So everything went according to script, except they didn't get the number one pick, which they basically had locked down until the very last week of the season. And then right after that goes down, they fire this guy. It's either they hired him with the intention of firing him after 1 year, or they fired him because they wanted to get the number one pick. They probably told him going into the week, don't jeopardize the number one pick. He didn't listen, and they fired him as a consequence. Nothing else makes sense. So to me, this guy got fired for winning. And this is my problem with the system that is in existence in all sports that rewards losing. Now, it does it more so in the NFL because there's no weighted element to it. But the thing is, there's not a great solution. It's not like you can just give the number one pick to higher ranked teams or make it completely random, because then what method of improvement do other teams have? I understand the counter argument to it, but this is the dark side of it. If my suspicion is in fact true, and I believe it is, then a guy got punished, the ultimate punishment, for doing what he's supposed to do, which is try to win football games. Now, this team sucks. I mean, the Texans are one of the worst teams. They probably are the worst team in the NFL. They were all year until the very last game. I think that, they how many games they won? 3 or 4? They didn't have enough talent to win more than that. So to me, he did anything he could do. I mean, Lovie Smith is not without his faults as a coach, but the guy's not a terrible coach. And for God's sakes, you just hired him last year. And you hired him into a situation that everyone knew wasn't good. Well, the only thing that makes sense here is they got him. They were pissed that he didn't listen to their in-week directives to not jeopardize that number one pick. So they fired him out of anger. That's the only thing that makes sense here.
If I were coaching in that dumpster fire, I would have always had a tape recorder in my pocket.
Yeah.
Every time they met with me, boy, you could hit him for some bucks if that's the reason they fired him. A coach is paid to do something.
Right.
You brought a coach in to try to win. What message does that convey to the players, except that we are a dumpster fire? We're a garbage organization.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole non-lottery thing is reason 1,123. The list keeps growing, in which I cannot stand the NFL.
Yeah, I have no problems with the
you're
NFL.
You're just handing a team I know you don't. I do. It's a difference. That's all. It's stupid. At least incentivize the team. Don't incentivize them to just suck.
Yeah, see, I've always been a believer that they should always have just randomized draft picks. I really, in all sports, because the truth is, if they are truly random, no one's going to get more than anyone else. And I understand that that's going to create times when a great team gets a great player. And I understand that that's not something a lot of people want. But the truth is, for as many times as that happens, there's going to be many more times when the great player goes to an average team, or a bad team or anything else. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. I mean, think about it like this. How many years is there a truly difference making player in, say, the NBA? A guy that really moves the needle? Is it one out of every three, maybe two out of every eight, like something like that? So if
Well, there's about 5 in a league
of over
500
400
players.
players, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
So, I mean, realistically, if you figure there's one every 3 or 4 years, or maybe two every 10 years, something like that, two, four every 10 years, something like that, a small amount. How many times is that one year going to end up going to the team that's already great? I mean, there's 30 teams in the league, and there's what, 3 to 5 great teams every year.
well, first
If
of all,
that,
if you just did the non-playoff teams, a great team isn't getting the number 1 pick.
I mean, you could do it that way too, but that's still to some extent. If you wanted to completely eliminate any incentive whatsoever to lose games, the only way to fully, completely do that is to just make everyone equal 1/30th chances of getting.
That'll never
That's
happen.
that's the only way to do that. If
Well, if you take 16 teams that don't make it, or what? There's 14 in, 16 that don't make it,
Yep.
and give them each one equal shot at it.
Right, but
You
then
have you have a 1 in 16 chance.
right, but you know what the problem with that is? Okay, so 14 teams make it, but of those 14, realistically, 6 of them are really competing. The other 8 are going to compete to be part of the other 16. So you're still going to get that tanking in that scenario.
Yeah, but in this
That's
year they're there, and that's what counts.
but that what I'm saying is a lot of organizations are going to value the chance at the player versus the chance to barely make the playoffs and be non-competitive. That's the issue with that approach. I
There's a financial incentive to making the playoff. You can't make it a free for all. You just can't, and they never will.
I mean, I don't care what they're gonna do. That's never my focus on this. My focus is always on what I think they should do or what I think would make sense. And to me, you can't really avoid incentivizing losing unless literally everyone has the same equal shot at everything every year. That's the only
Yeah,
way to fully
I
do it.
don't want Philly or KC to have that same shot this year. I don't.
Well, so then you're gonna get intentional losing. That's the alternative.
Why? For a 1 in 16 chance?
Well, no, not in the
You're going to
NFL.
do that?
Not
That's dumb.
no, not in the NFL. In
Well,
the NFL,
if they made it the non-playoff teams equal,
okay, so then fine. Okay, so then Green Bay has that pick, right? Because now Green Bay, which barely missed the playoffs, or Pittsburgh gets it, or Baltimore gets it. There's a million pretty
well,
good
Baltimore's
teams.
in.
Okay, so Baltimore just missed it. So Detroit could get it, Green Bay could get it,
Well, Detroit, yeah,
Pittsburgh could get
Detroit
it,
could.
Seattle maybe could get it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of good teams that could then end up with that pick. So
Not really. If you're not in the playoffs, I don't think you're very good.
yeah, but you're not bad necessarily. I mean, the
No, but
Texans are bad. The Bears
right.
are terrible, right? Like there's a handful of really bad
Well,
teams.
see, and I don't know what the Texans are all angry about. The Bears aren't picking a quarterback.
Yeah, that's the thing that's true. I mean, you're not going to pick a quarterback if you're the Bears.
Unless
Shouldn't.
they dump Fields, which I wouldn't put anything past some of these franchises.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're going to move on from Fields, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, look, he's been the most useful thing they've had on offense in I don't know how many years.
Almost the only thing they've
Yeah.
had.
Yeah, I mean, like really since like Thomas Jones, he's like the most important, like the useful offensive player I've seen on their team in a very long time. And yeah, but I personally think that if you could completely remove any incentive to losing, because the lottery system, as we see in the NBA, has its own issues, right?
Yeah, but they don't do it the right way either.
Well, they
You
don't.
take all non-playoff teams and give them each one chance. So everybody's got there's 14 balls in the hopper. Everyone has one. I don't want the worst team to even have that 18% chance. I don't. I want them to have a 1 in whatever chance, however many non-playoff teams.
See, I don't think that would appreciably improve things. I think the only thing that would change
Oh, I do.
would
You
be the
ain't tanking
focus
for the
of
first
losing.
pick. You're not tanking for the first pick if you don't have if you have a 1 in whatever chance.
No, but what it's gonna
stupid.
But what it would do, you're not gonna tank for the first pick. But what you are gonna do is if you're on that bubble of the playoffs versus not the playoffs, you're going to tank to make sure you're in that pool to have a chance at the pick. That's what's gonna happen. So it's gonna reduce the competitiveness of trying to make the playoffs at the end of the season. That's what it's gonna do. Teams will value
Why?
the
No
chance
teams
that
want no
they're-
teams want any extra revenue from playoff games.
I don't think so. I think that most of these teams, from what I've seen, most of these teams value that chance at the great player more than they value whatever that amount of money is, or quote unquote making the playoffs. I absolutely believe that. I would bet you, if you polled the GMs, I would bet you 25 out of 30 of them would say I'd rather have the chance at the player. Because ultimately the reason for that is very simple, is they get fired if they don't start winning games pretty quickly. That's what ends up happening. So they end up getting fired, so they end up losing their job and their money. So yeah, I think they would rather get their guy or try to get their guy. That's what I think.
You really think players who want to make that kind of money and really just want to throw it away?
I don't
don't.
think the players have the decision power here. I think the players absolutely go out there on all sides every game and lay it on the line. Players play. But the thing is, if you're run by an organization, if you're on an organization like the Texans, for example, that are specifically built to not be very good, like, you can play your heart out all you want, but your team doesn't have the talent to win those games. And that's the bottom line.
Doesn't matter. I'm still playing hard for my next contract.
Of course they are.
Doesn't
No,
have to be there.
Players absolutely will play hard, but it won't result in anything appreciable in terms of wins if the organization is hell bent on bringing in players below a certain talent level, so they make sure they get those higher picks. And that's what these teams do. I mean, we saw it with Philadelphia with Sam Hinkie. We've seen it with OKC. Teams do this.
That didn't work that great. They just happened to land on the right guy.
It never does work. But the system absolutely incentivizes that approach by even under the lottery rules. It incentivizes that. Forget it in the NFL. I mean, it's if you have the worst record, it's yours. I mean, it's even more incentivized there, particularly in a year when there's a quarterback that people want.
And there supposedly are two this year.
There's Bryce Young
and the kid from Ohio State.
I don't know.
Is there any guarantee on these guys? I mean, I don't.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, the whole thing is based off of, potential, right? It's based off of projection. It always is. But that's what teams chase. They do. And if you want to remove that and thus eliminate something like what happened with Lovie Smith, like I said, I'm convinced that's why he got fired. There's no other logical or even illogical explanation for it. You just hired him. He's 1 year in. You hired him to a team you knew was going to suck.
We saw that with the Browns a couple of years ago. We've seen a few recently. 1 year head coaches. No one turns a situation like that around in 1 year. Not in football.
No, you
one
couldn't.
Guy isn't going to make that much of a difference.
No, you couldn't turn it around. There was no way. I mean, that team was designed to be horrible. They were, and they were.
I stand by Lovie Smith in this. I would never, ever, if an owner told me to lose the game, I would never do it. I would just take the attitude, fire me.
Yeah, no,
I'm not.
I bet
messing
you that's
with my reputation or my conscience.
I bet you that's what happened. I really think that's exactly the conversation that was had. And
he'll be a D coordinator somewhere. He'll get something else.
Yeah, hopefully
they will always suck.
Hopefully on a real team. You know where I would love to see Lovie Smith end up if he ended up as a coordinator? I would love to see him as the defensive coordinator under Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. That'd be awesome.
Oh.
Be like, refreshing. They want to win. Yes.
Yeah. And they went out and played like it today. And I'll tell you what, I was talking about this before all the scenarios were wrapped up. I respected the Texans for the way they went out there and played.
Yeah.
I respected the Lions for the way they went out there and played with nothing to play for.
Nothing at all. Yep.
I respect that. And I like the Lions coach too.
No, I like the Lions coach too. Campbell, absolutely. By the way, talking about Pittsburgh, crazy statistic emerged over the weekend. I sent you this. I'm gonna share it with the audience real quick. Mike Tomlin just completed his 16th year as Steelers head coach. In that time, they've never had a season below 500, not once.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane? That's totally crazy. I'd like to see how many. Cower was there for what, 20-something years?
He was there a long time. Before him was Chuck Noll.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we've gone from Chuck Noll to Mike Tomlin with one guy in between. I mean, think about that. Like, there's been 3 coaches of the Steelers basically since color TV has been a thing.
That's why. Right.
Like, think about that.
That's why this is such a good organization. They don't play musical chairs with coaches.
Oh,
Did
no.
Cowher ever have losing seasons? Yes.
A couple, but not many.
He didn't have a lot, but he had a couple.
Yep.
Tomlin came real close. I mean, last year he was 8-1. As close as you can get.
Made it.
It's as close as you can get. This year, they played that last game like they meant it.
Yep.
Jets gave them no help.
Nope.
What else is new?
The Jets are horrible. What a disaster. What did I tell you about Carolina? I told you Carolina was going to win somehow. Disgusting. That game was disgusting. How did we do this week anyway?
Carolina. Oh yeah, the beating the Saints. Oh, that was a terrible game. You did not do well.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
You were 7-9.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I was 10-6.
Okay.
We differed on 3 games. You had the Ravens. I had the Bengals.
Yep.
What's the second game we differed on? You had the Rams. I had the Seahawks.
Yes.
And you had the Titans. I had the Jags.
Okay, I thought we differed on the Carolina game too. I thought you took New Orleans.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I couldn't possibly take
Okay.
it. Much as I have no faith in Carolina.
There we go.
I have less in New Orleans.
Yeah, there you go.
That's hard to do.
All right, well, there we have it. So that's the opening rant. We got some other stuff to get to today. We got the question of the day. I got some stuff on Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, which I want to get to. Also, a little news. Former CEO of WWE, Vince McMahon, is coming back, apparently, amid a possible sale of the company. So we'll see how that works out. And anyway, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do the Kobe and LeBron stuff. We'll do the question of the day. A lot to get to. Just getting started here on the Gary Ayd Show on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All righty, we are back, and it's time for the radio question of the day.
The WNBA is trending in the right direction. I am KO. Back in a minute with your sports question of the day.
Duke the Pug will soon turn 20, which is pretty good for a dog breed that averages 11 years. When Duke was 13, he lost a lot of hair, had a hard time getting up for a walk, and his bowel movements were not very moving. We started making his food instead of buying it. We cook up a big batch of rice, chicken, broccoli, carrots, and turmeric, freeze meal-sized batches, and thaw them at mealtime. We also sprinkle Arthrodex on each meal. Arthrodex is a complete blend of plant-derived minerals, vitamins, amino acids, and enzymes formulated to make old dogs young again. And it does. Duke the Pug does have his problems, but he has all his hair, loves daily walks, and has no problems with his movements. Breakfast is at 7, and if it's not there by 7:01, we all hear about it. Make your old dog young again. Pick up Arthrodex at nutrientstogo.com. And while you're at it, make yourself young again with a Healthy Body Start Pack. nutrientstogo.com.
Data compiled by Google in partnership with the WNBA indicate interest in the league, its players, and its community has accelerated since 2004 when search data for the league began. For example, overall searches for the WNBA went up by 195%. Searches for the scores are up 550%, and searches for the league's best players are up by a whopping 1,194%. Question: have you or have you not watched a WNBA game?
No, I know you have many times, Rich. I have not. The one thing I've always said with and those numbers are really high, so there's no way what I'm about to say accounts for a majority or even a huge percentage of this, but it will account for a healthy percentage because this is a pandemic across everything in the search advertising industry. There is an absolute pandemic of bot searches. I mean, you saw it with the Twitter buyout. That was like the biggest thing Elon Musk was worried about, was the bots and the fake accounts and the fake searches, because all of these things are based off of either impressions or clicks. So it incentivizes the companies selling to have either click farms or bot farms, basically, depending on whether you're paying by impression or by click. So these numbers, you always have to, no matter what they are, you have to kind of take them with a slight bit of skepticism, purely because of that. That's pervasive. That has nothing to do with the WNBA. This could have been, they could have said the question of the day is plumbers have had an uptick in searches by 4,000%. They would have said the same thing. This is just a problem with search data. It just is. Now, that said, I just want to make everyone aware of that, because people who aren't in this industry may not know that. But with that said, those are great numbers. And but the other thing about that I thought was an interesting piece, it's not common for sort of a reference point for a growth trajectory like this, a statistic that's designed to show some type of growth trajectory. Typically, the reference point or the starting point from which they chart that growth is a lot more recent than 20 years ago. That was a little unusual too.
That was the point I was going to make. Since 2004?
That's a long time ago. I would certainly hope
the numbers
so.
are going to
right,
be up.
Right. That was the other part. And I don't want to sound like, blah, 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 women's sports. I don't want to be that guy. But I mean, that's like a really, that does make me wonder, well, then what's the growth look like since 2018, for example? I'm just picking a random year that's more recent. Like, if they're going to go back that far, it makes me suspicious that maybe the numbers aren't growing the way they think they should be. So they're going back far enough to make them sound better.
I covered the league for 3 years extensively. The league is growing organically. Leave it at that. You don't have to put numbers out there in what's happened the last 19 years.
Yeah, that doesn't help anything. I mean, for one thing, in 2004, Google, I don't even think was the top search engine yet. I think it was still Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves, baby.
That's how far back that is.
Yeah, Jeeves died and the whole thing went to hell.
That's it, man. That's right. We need our butler back.
Jeeves is dead. Oh no.
Oh no.
How are we gonna search?
Oh.
Eyeballs are up on screens.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Yep.
The numbers are better. And remember, it's a league in its 25th year.
25, 26, something like that.
Yeah,
97, whatever that is.
In the 25, okay.
Yep.
When the NBA was 25 years old, the numbers weren't great. I mean,
I guess
it had the advantage of being a man's sport.
It also had the
growth.
I would say the NBA had the disadvantage at its 25th year, where television was barely in its infancy too.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly.
Yeah, but other sports didn't.
Well, baseball, for example, and hockey and football, the other three were around, anywhere from 40 to 20 to almost 100 years earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Baseball, if you talk about baseball, depending who you ask, might be like pre-Civil War, just after the Civil War, NFL and NHL 1920. So
yeah, that's true. But see, that's that 25-year mark. You cannot expect it to be great. But instead of concentrating on numbers like this and doing revisionist history, how about the fact, they're growing a little.
Mm-hmm.
The growth is organic and it's all right. It doesn't have to be these ridiculous numbers.
I think you just got a promotion in the chats today, Rich.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you certainly just had your net worth go up quite a bit.
All right. Give me that cash.
Your Butterbean in retirement. Hey.
Bob Love?
Butterbean? No, Butterbean. The boxer?
Oh, I know Bob Love.
Oh, the basketball player, yeah.
Yeah, it was his nickname.
Oh, that was his nickname. I think he was talking about the boxer, though. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty good, though. Hey,
well, he was not a great boxer.
No, he wasn't. He was kind of like the John Daly of boxing. He wasn't good, but he made a lot of money.
Character.
Yeah, because he was a
great character.
There you go. Uh-oh. What are you doing? Get out of here.
Oh, he's just attacking like crazy today.
He's just in a bad mood. He should be in a good mood. His Eagles
should
won.
be happy. The Eagles clinched the top spot.
I don't know why he's in a bad mood today.
Of course, the Eagles could have got blown out and they would have clinched the top spot with the no-show that Dallas.
Oh man, what a mess! And
6 points. Hey, we got 6 points. Yeah, okay.
Talk about limping into the playoffs. Speaking of the NFL playoffs, the field is set. So I feel like now is a time to kind of go over that real quick. So
sure.
Looking at the wild card round, you have first in the AFC, you have the Chargers and the Jaguars is your 4-5 matchup. Of course, Kansas City with the first round bye as the 1 seed will play the winner of that game. And then the 3 and 6 is Baltimore, Cincinnati. So a rematch. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then
2 rematches actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Considering it's teams that have played recently.
Right. And
2 and 7.
That's right. Yeah, you got the Bills and the Dolphins there.
In Orchard Park.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Little weasels, get up here.
Good luck with that. And then of course over in the NFC, you have the 4-5 matchup of Tampa and Dallas, with the winner being hosted by the Eagles in the divisional round. Of course, the Eagles with the first round bye. Vikings and Giants, and then the Niners and Seahawks. I think the Giants got a great draw here. I really do, because I mean, the truth of the matter is, this is the most, them or the Seahawks, the Vikings or the Seahawks, I think were the most beatable teams in the NFC. The only concern I have from a Giants perspective, and that's where I want to start because they're local, is the Vikings have this mechanism where just randomly they turn into like the 2004 Vikings where they just score like 30 points and a half. And if that randomly happens, the Giants are dead because they can't keep up with that. Like, so the Giants, as long as they can like avoid letting the Vikings turn into the 2003 Vikings, I think they can win this game. But if the Vikings have one of those spurts where they score 20 points in 3 minutes or something, I think the Giants are in a lot of trouble. That would be my concern as a Giant fan coming into this game is how do we prevent those explosive plays from the Vikings? Because the Giants don't have the ability to match those.
Right.
But
right. That's it's still one of the more intriguing games.
Oh, it definitely is.
Seattle just better be happy to just be there.
Yes.
Because the Niners bury them.
Yeah, no,
bury them.
I mean,
if I'm the Giants, I run the hell out of the ball and keep Jefferson and the offense off the field.
Oh, that's exactly that's gonna be their game plan, and that's why I think the Giants have a good shot in this game. To Austin's point in the chats, the Vikings defense is horrible. So just like you said, Rich, feed Barkley and let him go nuts. Absolutely. So, and I think that's a very good game plan, and I think they have a good chance of success. All I'm saying is, like, let's say they do that, and let's say the Giants have a 12-play, 65-yard drive that ends in a field goal. Let's say they get stuffed at the goal line, and then the Vikings come down and in a minute and 12 seconds go 70 yards. Like, that's what I'm concerned about. It's when they do get the ball, are the Giants able to keep them from those explosive plays? That's the only question I have.
And if you're going to have those kind of drives and take up that much time, get in the end zone.
Yes.
Field goals aren't going to beat that team.
No, you have to finish your drives. That's exactly right. And then you have to.
That's like going into a game with Kansas City or Philly.
Yes.
And thinking, well, if we get a few field goals, we'll be fine.
No,
you won't.
No, you won't. You need touchdowns.
You'll be looking at 21-9 then. Okay, great.
That's right. You need touchdowns.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But there are some interesting games. Some quite interesting games.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of them. So that's the that was the local one. Let's take a look at the rest of these in the NFC. I mean, I'm looking at the Niners and Seahawks. Obviously, I have to tell you what. I know I read that Hurts was hurting considerably yesterday. I still think the Eagles are probably the favorites in the NFC, but I'll tell you what, my Niners look
got a week
scary.
off.
Yeah, that's going to help him a lot.
Yeah.
The Niners, I think, are definitely scary. I'll tell you this, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I'm shitting myself with how bad we've played recently. And, you know, the fact that I'm playing Tom Brady here in the first round. The Bucs haven't been great this year, but he's got that like sort of like aura of like, you know,
Yeah, he does. And the way Prescott's throwing picks.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right?
That has to be concerning.
Yeah, that's you talk about a team limping into the playoffs. And I was high on this team for a lot of this year. They played really good for long stretches. And they're just playing their worst at the worst possible time. Seattle, I don't give them much of a chance. I mean, I think the Niners are just significantly better.
They're better offensively. They're more efficient offensively. They're better, miles better defensively.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that being a super competitive game, but who knows?
Purdy would have to really wake up and go, "Oh man, I'm in the playoffs."
Yeah, he'd have to really crap himself. And even then,
for Seattle to really even have a chance.
And even then,
be in the game
with Samuel back and McCaffrey there, you just give those guys the ball. Like, even if you could almost like run a direct snap offense and probably still be okay.
Yeah.
Going through these on picks real quick. I got Dallas edging Tampa Bay. With everything I just said, I'm going down with that ship. I'm gonna go ahead and say Dallas beats Tampa Bay, maybe against my better judgment. I'm going to call the Giants to beat the Vikings. I think the Giants figure out a way to keep them off those explosive plays. Niners handle the Seahawks easily. Moving to the AFC first round, I got the Jags upsetting the Chargers in the 4-5 matchup. I like the way they've been playing. Particularly their defense really impressed me in their Week 18 win. So I got the Jags beating the Chargers. I got the Bengals beating the Ravens. I learned my lesson there. and I got the Bills killing the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins get slaughtered. I see this is like 30 to like 12.
I'm gonna wait till Friday to make picks.
Okay, there you go.
But
That's-
I don't think Jags winning is an upset.
No, well, they're
I really don't. The Chargers are their own worst enemy.
they really truly are. They really are.
They have a great quarterback and so many holes. But a great quarterback can overcome some of that. But the only thing they have going up against Jacksonville is they're playing a team that's not used to being there. But Herbert's no veteran of it either.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I probably would have picked the Chargers until last week when I saw that Jacksonville defense. I haven't seen them play that well all year. I mean, that because their offense was horrible, and their defense, Jacksonville's defense, won that game. I mean, they were just stuffing the hell out of Tennessee the second half. They were killing them.
Yeah.
And that impressed me. So if they can get anything close to that on defense, I think that offense will be better. I think that offense is better than they played in week 18. And yeah, I like this Jacksonville team against the Chargers.
They're fun. They're going to make it fun.
I'm impressed with myself. I didn't say San Diego once.
I wonder if then Buffalo, Miami. I wonder if that guy is going to that fraud of a head coach down there, the Harvard boy.
Oh yes,
is
my chemistry professor.
How do you go from Harvard? I know mommy and daddy have mega bucks, but how do you go from Harvard to an NFL gig right away?
They must know Stephen Ross, mommy and daddy.
They know everyone.
They must.
They're richer than rich. So, but spare me with this clown. Oh, we'll have a good week of practice. We'll turn the air conditioning up. Yeah, that'll get you ready for Buffalo.
Yeah.
You do that.
Yeah,
have
fun with that, right? Maybe if you want a good week of practice, go up to Buffalo a week early, find some field to rent and practice there outside. Then you'll get you don't want to go to Buffalo early? Why? Because it's too cold? Well, yeah, I don't blame you, but just know air conditioning doesn't prepare you for Buffalo winter.
Oh, the shots of those clowns yesterday tailgating. Oh, my God. When you're tailgating in a Hawaiian shirt and shorts, that's not tailgating.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Our tailgaters look like the abominable snowman from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's what real tailgaters look like. They got like the bubble coats on and the parkas and the face masks and the ski masks and all that stuff.
And you're standing close to the smoker to
yes.
keep warm.
Yes, that's real tailgating, people. That's what it really looks like.
Because I know a guy that brings a smoker that's probably bigger than the place I live. And that thing's on from the night before. He smokes for 20 hours before the game. That's dedication.
That is awesome. That really
But he has great food.
Yeah, well, slow smoked meat is about as good a food as you can make on the planet.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better than that. So
I also agree with, I do like the Chargers roster. And I don't like Staley, but I didn't like the guy before him either.
Yeah, they've had a series of less than impressive coaches, which is a shame. I'll tell you this.
With a quarterback and a team like that, yeah, they should do better.
I'll tell you this. It could be the best thing that ever happened to them to lose to Jacksonville if Austin's prediction works out and that costs Staley his job. I'll tell you this, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm tripping over myself to coach Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the hell with all these other guys. Denver, you can give me a percentage of Walmart. I'm not taking it. I got this guy Herbert over here. Yeah, you keep your Russell Wilson $4 billion contract, albatross purgatory. You can keep that. I'm not bailing you out. I'm going over here with this big 6'6" guy, the stud over here. Yeah, let me take that.
Although Wilson looked like old Russell Wilson yesterday.
He did. He had one random good game. So
and it's just so strange to see.
I know.
It's like, I know this isn't the same guy.
Yeah, right. What happened here?
I don't know what happened. I think the Chargers were locked in. They had Herbert out in the third quarter. I think they were locked in. It didn't matter whether they won that game or not.
No, it made no difference. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Kobe and LeBron. Something I've observed over the last 10 or so games that LeBron has played that reminded me of vintage Mamba. So we'll talk about that next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch. Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
Okay, so it's no big secret that LeBron James has been carrying the Lakers, willing the Lakers back into some semblance of relevancy. They're within 2 games of 500 at this point. They've won 5 in a row. They've beaten some decent teams along the way there to do it, including Sacramento and Atlanta. Those aren't great teams, but they're solid teams. Sacramento in particular was an impressive win. And, you know, we were talking about this the other day, Rich. It reminds me of whatever year that was, Kobe Bryant, 2012 or 13, his last like prime year before that year ended with the Achilles injury. He was carrying and willing a team, a Laker team, that was absolutely about as rudderless and pedestrian as this group, into relevancy purely by his own greatness. And he was at that point, you know, in year whatever that was, if it was 2013, that would have been year 17 or year 18 for Kobe. And he was just managing to keep them alive and force them into relevancy. They were going, kicking and screaming. And I felt like Kobe was fostering and funneling every last bit of his remaining athletic prime to make that happen. And I just get the sense that LeBron's doing something similar right now with this Laker team. I mean, he's just taking them by the ears and forcing their hand to being relevant. And it's every once in a while you see this with a great player who seems to be at the end of their rope, or at least should be. Certainly we kind of saw this with Tom Brady this year too, with the way he kind of brought this team along at the very end of the season, kind of willed them into the playoffs. You see this at times, and I remember this vividly with what Kobe did that year against all those odds, and I feel like LeBron's doing the same thing right now.
Agreed. First of all, that comment, the only thing Anthony Davis can carry is a crutch.
A couple of crutches, maybe.
So let's not get carried away there.
I saw a bag of Ruffles potato chips with Anthony Davis's picture on them, and I said, oh yeah, every chip in this bag must be broken.
If not, it will be.
That's right.
You
It's
can
coming.
count on it.
It's coming. You guarantee it. That's right.
Yeah, I think that last Kobe year was cool because it was like, let's get Chris Mim into the playoffs.
Yes,
You know?
you're carrying around Chris Mim, and God, who else was on that team?
Oh, geez, they had some roster flotsam out there. I'll tell you, it was bad.
Yeah, that was a disaster type.
It was Kobe and I mean, they didn't even have a Sasha Pavlovich to be a good second guy.
Sasha Pavlovich. Oh man, no Booby.
Oh, remember that first Cleveland?
Yeah, no Booby Gibson either.
That's
got
right.
guys named Boob and Sasha, my best players. Love going to the finals.
Sasha was the second leading scorer in that finals.
That's right.
Where they lost to the Spurs. That's sad.
Did Yilgauskas? No, Yilgauskas. He made that. He was on that finals roster. Okay, yeah, he never won a title though. That's sad. Yilgauskas.
Yeah, but he was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt. He didn't play. Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yilgauskas was a guy I always wished. Did he win a title in Miami?
No, they didn't keep him after the first year.
That's what it was.
Despite LeBron wanting them to keep him.
Right. Yeah.
They didn't pay him. So
that's a shame. He was a champion player in every sense of the word.
He was. I liked Z.
Yeah, he was awesome. But
it's it is basically one person trying to will a team. They're still, despite this, 5-game winning streak? Despite that, they're still the fourth worst team in the West.
No, well, that's just it. They still got a long way to go. One thing,
and go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one thing that's a little different, and this speaks to the style of the two players. While Kobe more or less willed that team by his sheer volume of scoring, LeBron is, by the nature of how he plays, certainly he's scoring a lot. He's averaging over 30 since turning 38, but he's all of a sudden turned Thomas Bryant into a relevant player. Dennis Schroeder rediscovered playing basketball. And, that's LeBron's way, right? That's what he's always done in his career. I mean, he's turned guys lemons into lemonade. He's turned pumpkins into papayas. Like he just finds a way of making something useless into something useful. That's what he does.
I gotta remember that.
Pumpkins into papayas.
Into papayas. I gotta use that somewhere. That's what great players do.
Yep.
I mean, Jordan made Corey Blunt relevant. When the Bulls dealt him, he sat around the league for a few years and did nothing.
It's true. That's very true. Yeah, no, that's what great players do. I mean, Deion Branch, people think was a good NFL receiver. Thank you, Tom Brady. Yeah. Brandon Stokely had multiple 1,000-yard receiving years. Thank you, Peyton Manning. It's just what happens. The great players do that. But yeah, it's been interesting. And the one guy on this team that I think is going to be indispensable moving forward, if they are going to keep this momentum after Davis comes back and make themselves a relevant season, is Dennis Schroeder. Because LeBron or no LeBron, Dennis Schroeder at various points in his now decade-plus NBA career has been a guy who can score.
Yes.
And they need that. So I'm happy to see that. I've never been a big fan of his. He's never been my favorite player, and he's still not. But this is
same here. Everything he scores, he gives up on the other end.
Oh, he's not efficient. He's very much like an ISO player. Like, there's a lot about him I don't like. But like I always say,
hence 136 to 134 games.
Yes.
Although give some props to Sacramento. That's a healthy offensive team.
That's a good team. Well, that's why that win made me so happy, because Sacramento is a solid team. They are, particularly offensively, like you said. And just to kind of finish up my thought on Schroeder for a second, I'm a Lakers fan, of course. I don't like Dennis Schroeder, but sometimes, like I always say, sometimes volume of production matters more than efficiency of production. And when you have a roster as devoid of offensive talent as this one is, other than its top couple of guys, you need points anywhere you can get them from. And besides those few guys, and look, they're getting that right now. And it's interesting to me when I look at the numbers. I can't believe the Lakers are a top 10 offense in points per game because, man, there's been so many long stretches this year where they have not looked like it. I mean, there's been so many, but
true.
But I'm very happy with the last
they're
few
still
games.
they're a defensive train wreck.
Oh, they're a disaster. Oh, they're a disaster defensively. And that's where I think a healthy Davis can really help them the most. I mean, particularly if this newfound offensive mojo is in any way sustainable, Davis can come back and be the ultimate decoy on offense and be an anchor on defense, which may help him stay healthy. Who knows? Probably not. Davis is made out of plexiglass, but you gotta try.
and not only that, is that the best we would expect from him now is to be a decoy?
I don't know that it's the best you can expect from him, but maybe if everyone's playing well, maybe it's just what you need to ease him back in for a little while. But I don't know. I mean, I want to expect a lot more from him. I know what Davis is capable of, but the guy can't stay healthy.
Right.
So, I mean, if I can reduce his usage rate, talk about load management, if you can reduce his usage rate, like not so much number of games, but like the amount that you play through him, maybe you can preserve him a little bit. I don't know. I hate having to do this with the guy that I think is supposed to be like the future of the franchise, which is why I can't agree with Austin here. Davis can't carry anybody because he's not. His body will wilt under the weight, literally break from the weight of carrying anything.
True.
That's why he doesn't carry his own luggage into the arena. He'll pull his shoulder muscle.
Absolutely.
Be out for 4 weeks. What caused the injury? Oh, I packed one too many Parkers. Crying out loud. The guy kills me.
Did you see the interview LeBron had with The Athletic?
That was the one where he was talking about the pursuit of Kareem?
No.
Oh, okay, no.
He kind of blasted him for not doing anything on the trade front. It was,
yes.
You all know what the should be happening. I don't need to talk. Well, for someone who don't need to talk, he's talking about it a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's not wrong. I mean,
well, what can they do?
Well, I mean, they could certainly make some type of move. I mean, for one thing, they could have done that Miles Turner, Buddy Hield thing 100 times.
Do we know that?
We know it pretty well. I guess you never know.
Do we know? Do we know that they offered?
Well, yes, we do.
Both the picks.
Well, that's what they weren't willing to do.
Right.
Well,
that's what Indiana wants.
Well, and that's my point. They could have done that. That's exactly what I'm saying. Because look, those picks are, first of all, so far out in the future as to who knows what they'll likely look like. And second of all, I'm sorry, if you have a team that has a 37, 38-year-old LeBron and a guy in Davis who you can't possibly think is going to have a long career based on his injury history, I don't like you can't, like, to me, I feel like the Lakers have been strategically indecisive, right? Like either trade Davis and Westbrook and just freaking go all in on the rebuild and let LeBron do what he needs to do, or let's go all in and try to get back relevant. But what they're doing right now and being, to me, indecisive and not committing to either direction, that's what I don't like. I don't really care which way they go, but to me, if I was LeBron, I would be frustrated too, because you're not going in either direction. I think even LeBron would probably still be mad, but I think it would be easier for him to kind of deal with if they just said, okay, we're trading everybody and we're going with a youth movement. Then he knows what he needs to do. Right now, it's kind of like a holding pattern. They're not going in either direction, and that's what's frustrating to me.
But I got a few problems with the comments too.
Okay.
His insistence that they trade for Westbrook in the first place took away what flexibility they had.
Yeah, well, that was their fourth. That was their third or fourth choice.
But it shouldn't have been done.
Well, I mean, that's possible. Yeah,
it shouldn't have been.
I mean, look, ultimately, Westbrook's not the issue with this team right now. Since he's been moved to that sixth man.
His contract is.
Well, his contract's a 1-year deal at this point.
Well,
So that comes off the
if
books.
it wasn't done, they would have had the flexibility, or if they would
But I
have
have
moved
no
all
confidence.
those pieces to get it,
I have no confidence that they
it would have been a better team.
I have no confidence that they would have done anything with that flexibility anyway. Russell Westbrook, to me, is not the problem with this team. He was when he was a starter. There's no question. But like I was saying, from the time they traded for him, he needed to be a sixth man on this roster from the very beginning. And since he's taken that role, he's been great. He's not the problem at all. The problem is Anthony Davis' health.
I'm not saying he's a problem. I'm saying his contract is.
But his contract is a one-year deal.
It wasn't last year.
No, well, it is now. So right now, that's a trade asset, not a trade liability.
You're not going to move it for anything substantial.
Well, no, but you can get that quote flexibility you're asking about. But I wouldn't move Westbrook right now. See, to me, he's part of the solution at this point as a sixth man. He's not. That to me wouldn't be whatever you would get for him wouldn't be an upgrade to this roster,
right?
But
the only thing they have worth trading are those two picks,
right? So
and
trade
by
them.
By that time, LeBron's long gone. Anthony Davis has crumbled over somewhere in a heap.
Right, which is
and
all
those
the more
picks can be really valuable,
which is
a lot more valuable than now.
Which is all the more reason why you must trade them now, because you're in a position where you should be trying to pursue winning right now. Like in my opinion, there's no reason to have LeBron in your roster if you're not going to pursue winning. None. It doesn't make sense. Same with Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook for that matter. You didn't fire a good coach in Frank Vogel to tank. Right? That's not why you did that. So, like, to me, stop straddling the fence, go one way or the other. Either just blow this up, trade everybody, and let us deal with sucking again for 10 years, like we did between Kobe and LeBron, or try to do what you can to make this team as good as you can now. Do one or the other.
It's easy to say trade, but you got to have something people want.
You can move pieces if you want to. You can always make a trade happen. And the bottom line is you either got to shit or get off the pot. Do one or the other. Do one or the other. I don't care which one. I mean, I'd prefer you not blow it up, but if you want to blow it up, fine, blow it up. But like, it's maddening to me to sit in Indecisiveville while you're watching the greatest basketball player of all time put up basically his best year in a few years, and you're wasting it. You're just throwing it away. And that's the part that frustrates me. And they might win or be competitive in spite of themselves because that's how good LeBron is. That which is my original point here. But like, that shouldn't be the case. That's my problem. All right, let's take a break. We got the top 5 around the corner, hour 2. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave. All righty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, hour 2 here on the Cave. Great to have you aboard. CaveTalkRadio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app, Apple and Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Facebook and YouTube Live. Great to have you aboard. And hour 2, top of the hour, can mean only one thing. It's time for the top 5.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for King Talk Radio's Top 5.
There we have it. What do we got today, Rich?
Something kind of interesting. We talked about this around a month ago. And I wanted to come back after that miserable performance the Jets put up. They've had some questionable, and I'm being nice.
Yeah, you're very nice.
Quarterback drafts.
Yes.
Give me your top 5 all-time worst Jets quarterback picks.
Oh, my God. All of them. I mean, like, have they ever picked a good quarterback? Well, let's start there. Like, Namath was, like, good for, like, a couple of years. I mean, and you can't look at his statistics in a vacuum because, like, in the context of today, he would never make a field because his touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage, but all those numbers are out of whack. You have to understand that at one point in time, having a completion percentage close to 50% and a touchdown to interception ratio of neutral was like really, really good. Right?
Yes.
Like, so I know that sounds like foreign right now, but that was really the case. So forgetting the statistics, just the
different game.
Yeah, totally different. But just the longevity, and like he had the Anthony Davis syndrome too. It was made out of glass. But oh my God, the Jets quarterback. Oh man.
Doesn't have to be first round. Because they made a few second round pick quarterbacks that they thought were the future. And they weren't close.
My God, there's so many bad ones. I mean,
Come on, it's supposed to be fun.
Painful. Just going since 2000. Let's just go in this millennium. The best of the bunch was probably Chad Pennington, who was blah, but he was at least that. Like, he was at least vanilla ice cream. See, the rest of these were packaged in an ice cream container, but they were non-fat Greek yogurt with some ice in them. So because look at some of these other ones. The immortal Brooks Bollinger. Here's a winner. How about that one? 6th round out of Wisconsin.
Oh, you don't have to go even that far. You can go higher than that.
Oh, yeah. How about Kellen Clemens? Better at calling plays than playing plays, a.k.a. Tony Romo. What about our boy Geno Smith? Finally looks like an NFL quarterback 10 years into his career. Thank you, Seattle. Let's get a couple other ones. How about the immortal Bryce Petty or Christian Hackenberg all at the same time? How about those two?
Petty was one of those great college quarterbacks who didn't have enough of anything to play in the NFL. Hackenberg was big on my list too.
Yeah, he was pretty bad. Let's see. Get a couple others in here. There's just a lot. I mean, look, another guy that comes to mind, Mark Sanchez. He wasn't exactly good. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't exactly good. Sam Darnold was a bust.
A bust? Come on. Darnold was a whopping 5 for 15 yesterday with 2 picks. He was great.
Oh, I got some fun names here. How about Greg McElroy or Eric Ainge? How about those names?
McElroy was another one of those college quarterbacks who was nothing like what an NFL passer needed to be.
Jeff Blake actually made himself into a reasonable player. But he didn't do that with the Jets, of course. He became a Pro Bowl player with Cincinnati because the Jets can't manage quarterbacks.
Just-
I mean, the thing is, I'm seeing when I'm going through some of these lists, I'm seeing a lot of like late round picks. I'm not seeing a lot of like higher picks, which is surprising to me.
Well, Hackenberg was a second round pick.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned the bigger ones. I mean, you had
Darnold
Darnold,
now.
and Wilson. Yeah, Zach Wilson. I didn't even want to go there because that seems like too low hanging a fruit. But I suppose I should go there because I mean he looks like a train wreck of the highest order.
And they don't seem to want to trade him either.
Well, what are they going to trade him for?
You'd get nothing for him, but
I mean, you could trade him for some Tom Brady headsets.
Yeah.
They're all broken.
You'd get nothing for him. Everybody says, well, trade him. That's real easy to say. But how easy is it to do?
A couple bits of breaking news here in the chats. Broncos have officially requested to interview Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn for the head coach position, and also permission to interview DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator for the Niners, for their head coaching spot. So
Quinn's been done before.
Yep.
And failed. Ryans hasn't. That's interesting.
There you have it.
And I hate these distractions during the playoffs, too. No and no. You can request all you want. No.
There you go.
Not filling that request. We have playoff games coming up.
There we have it. Let's go ahead and put these in a rank of some kind. It's hard to do.
Well, they're quite rank, but that's another story altogether.
A different type of rank. That's right. They all stink to varying degrees of stinkiness. Man, I tell you what, Zach Wilson seems to be near the top of this heap, given how high of a pick he was and how awful he is. Darnold is another one. He didn't even look good elsewhere. I thought Mark Sanchez was a bad pick at the time, even though he probably had the most relative success of anyone on this list, at least with the Jets. But like the thing about it at the time was, if you remember, he had almost no college starting experience. He wasn't really high on anyone's draft board. It just was one of those picks that didn't make a lot of sense at the time. So from the standpoint of that type of perspective, I put him on this list. Now, he's not the stinker, the laughable name that some of these other guys are. But like I said before, a lot of the other guys on this list were not high round picks. So, you can only have so much expectation of a guy taken in the 5th or later rounds. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, so I'm putting Zach Wilson at 1, Sam Darnold at 2. I'm going to put Sanchez at 3. 4, I'm going to go with Bryce Petty. And the reason I'm putting Bryce Petty this high and on the list at all is because I remember distinctly for about 4 years, people telling me, well, wait till Petty comes in, wait till Petty's ready. I'm like, look, the guys he has to beat out are Geno Smith, Christian Hackenberg, and Tim Tebow. If he can't beat those guys out, he's never going to be ready because he sucks. Like, if that's your competition and I'm still waiting for you to be ready, you're never going to be ready. So I put him on that list for that reason. And I guess Kellen Clemens, yeah, him. I think it's a toss-up between him and Hackenberg.
Hackenberg was a second-round picker, never did anything.
Yeah, so I think I'm going with Hackenberg there.
He didn't even come close to looking decent.
No, I don't even know if he ever made it above, like, 4th on the depth chart.
No.
I mean, at one point,
he might have gotten into a game or two.
At one point, I think it was like the Jets quarterbacks at one point, they might have had them all on the roster at the same time. Geno, Petty, Hackenberg, and Tebow. I think we're on the roster all at the same time.
Yeah, I think Petty was the odd man out, though. He never dressed.
Oh, what a mess.
Isn't it? Oh, man. I've been saving that for a while, but
that's a good one.
We had to do it.
Alrighty. Well, there we have
just
it.
had to do it.
That's our top 5.
Hey, we got a few minutes.
Yeah, what do you got?
Think about this. Every wild card game this weekend, AFC, Dolphins, Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Chargers, Jaguars, were all played in the regular season. Jags crushed the Chargers like 38-10 or something early in the year. Bengals beat the Ravens. They split during the year. Dolphins and Bills split. NFC, Seattle got blitzed by the Niners twice. I think the total margin was 28. Vikings beat the Giants. Remember that? 61-yard field goal, game winner.
I do remember that.
And Tampa Bay beat Dallas in the opener. So that's interesting. I don't think that's happened that often where every team has played, and some multiple times. I mean, all three, 2 of the 3 in the AFC and 1 in the NFC played twice. So that's, just something I wanted to throw out there.
That is a cool little wrinkle. I like that. Very, very interesting. We got a couple of minutes before the break. What do we got on the NHL?
Slow day yesterday. We didn't have a lot going on. There were a few games.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really much of anything. We had no locals playing. And I'm looking to see, I don't think we have any. Well, yeah, Philly is at Buffalo tonight. But there's none of the New York teams. And I don't think any of them played yesterday. In fact, they did not. There's not a lot there. The funniest thing that happened, John Tortorella, who just hates all-star games.
He feels like the Greg Popovich of the NHL to me.
He is. Oh, he is.
He's just a grump, really isn't he?
Yeah, and someone said, tell me something about your player making his first all-star game. He goes, I don't care about any of that. He is so out there.
That's awesome.
He is. He is. He was in the ESPN studios before he took this job as an analyst. And oh my God, he hated everything. Everything.
Yeah, you can't be an analyst and hate everything about the sport you're analyzing.
I know.
Like, then what are you doing?
Oh, these young players with these skills and these trick shots. I hate it. Wow. Okay.
Grumpy old man.
It's actually getting people in. Probably not the best approach here.
Yeah, grumpy old man. I'll tell you what. All right. Let's take a break.
Yeah, him and Popovich should sit around and have wine. Yeah. I think it would be great.
Maybe they should just drink like bitter old whiskey, cheap whiskey. It fits their bitterness. Just no ice, no soda, just some cheap, red, Johnny Red. Yeah, just some or that cinnamon stuff, like something bitter and brutal, just to fit their personalities. You can throw
cinnamon stuff.
Yeah,
you mean Fireball.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah. That's the one. Throw Belichick and Saban in that crowd too. They can sing "Kumbaya" together. Oh, what a bunch of grumps. That's the grump. That's the old grump team right there. You got John Tortorella, Greg Popovich, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and who can we put that in baseball? Who fits the grump mode in baseball? Probably Aaron Boone, right? He's not old enough, but he's pretty grumpy.
No one as much as those guys.
No, those guys are on their own class with that one.
Oh, brutal. Absolutely brutal.
There we go. Happy Gilmore, the only relevant hockey player to ever live. Oh, Dylan's going crazy today.
And a great golfer, too.
That's right. I love it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got some NBA to do. There's also some a little bit of news going around Major League Baseball. John Heyman with a new report that it looks like the Correa thing might finally be coming to a head in the coming hours, perhaps. So we'll get into that as
it's
well.
about time.
And we'll be back with the NBA. It's the Gary Ayd Show here in the cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All right, so there's a number of interesting games in the NBA tonight. Not a huge slate of games, but a couple of decent ones. 6 in total will be played tonight. Locally, you have the Knicks in action tonight. They are taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm sorry, no, they are not. They're taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. New Orleans is playing Washington. More on that in a second. Milwaukee has Middleton mostly doubtful. Same with Barrett for the Knicks. So those are about cancel each other out. You know, it's interesting, Rich. You look at these the splits between these two teams, and they're remarkably similar. I mean, you would think the Bucks would be significantly more impressive on the stat sheet than the Knicks, but they're really not. I mean, the Bucks, like we were saying last week, they seem to win games by the skin of their teeth purely because of Giannis's individual brilliance late in games. But like, this is not really a very good Bucks team this year. Their record is sort of like deodorized by Giannis, but I mean, that's all they really got going for them this year. They have not played well as a team this year.
Brook Lopez has played decent after Giannis, and that's really about it. Drew Holiday hasn't been the same.
Yep.
I don't know if he's still banged up or what it is. Although Giannis says, geez, if you sleep on us, you're fools.
No, I mean, I'm never sleeping on a team with him on it. Not right now. But they've been, pedestrian as far as like good teams go.
They have.
And I give the Knicks a shot in this game. Look, the Knicks have been playing really well. They are now firmly over 500. They're 4 games over 500. I know that's not tremendous, but it's they're definitely not on the brink anymore. They have won 4 in a row, right? Like they are a team that I think is sound at this point, and they are at home. I think the fact that the Bucks won the first 2 meeting is circumstantial in the sense that we always say it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row in the regular season. I think the Knicks have a reasonable shot tonight. I really do.
I do too. I think they're playing well.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a lot of the right things. And Milwaukee hasn't really been impressive. They haven't been at all. Now, I'll tell you who hasn't been impressive, the Celtics. When they win, they're barely winning. And they're playing a Chicago team tonight that's hot.
Yeah, Chicago's playing really well. I actually picked the Bulls to win this game.
I mean, and look at the game they're coming off of, that win against Philly. Oh, man, Levine had 11 threes in that game.
Yeah. No, Chicago's playing great. Austin in the comments says Julius Randle needs some national respect. I completely agree. Julius Randle's a monster.
He needs some help is what he needs.
Yeah,
He really does. And I'm surprised the national audience doesn't pay more attention to that, the way he's playing.
Yeah, particularly for the team he's doing it for. I mean, it's the Knicks. It's not.
Yeah, where he's asked to be.
I mean, he's the face of the team. The one thing I will say about that, though, there's a lot of vocal Knick fans on the interwebs and in basketball groups I'm a part of that a good chunk of them believe Jalen Brunson is the best player, most important player in this team. And Brunson's fit this team well, much better than I thought he was going to. But let's not get it twisted. Julius Randle is the focal point of this team. He's the best player in this team. And let's just be real about it.
Right.
He is. I mean,
oh no, that he is. He fell off a bit last year.
Yes, he did.
And I think half of that was just him trying to take too much on.
Yep.
Because he didn't have the help.
Right.
Now that he has Brunson there.
Yep.
And that is helping, he's able to more play his game.
Yes.
What about the Nets? It beat the Heat yesterday.
Yep.
Despite Durant leaving the game with an injury, have you seen anything on that?
I have not. I know there was an MRI scheduled probably for some time today. So I'm guessing we'll get an update throughout the day today after we leave the air. But I look, the problem here is that obviously this guy has had injuries in the past. We know that he is definitely had knee problems and Achilles problems. And this comes at a unfortunate time because the team is playing so well.
Right.
That's the thing that you hate to see here is that this guy is getting hurt at exactly the wrong time. So we'll see. I mean, look, we'll see what Kyrie Irving can do to kind of carry the torch in the meantime. I don't know how long Durant's going to be out for. Nothing new on that yet. So I'm just kind of browsing right now. CBS doesn't have anything new. Yeah. So the last I heard was there was an MRI scheduled for today. So that's the most recent information.
I'm just hoping it's not long term.
Oh, I think everyone's hoping for that. Absolutely. I mean, you'd hate to see that. I mean, what I want to see is I want to see the Nets at their best in the playoffs. And if they fail, they fail. But let's see them with all their guns blazing.
Right.
Because we only saw that once, really, and they lost to the Bucks, who won the championship that year.
Right. And it was a competitive series.
It was a very competitive series. I mean, it came down to the last couple of shots of the game, 7-game series. So I want to see that again. I don't need to see them, hobbled against Boston. I mean, they did, I guess, Irving and Durant both played in that series, but Boston was a buzzsaw in last year's finals. Boston is not as good now as they were last year during the playoffs. Now they might still get there because they're appreciably the same team, roster composition wise.
Now, why do you think that is?
It's a really good question.
Is it just a slump, or is there something underlying there?
This is my theory, and some teams suffer from this more than others. We see this with Golden State, and I put this on Draymond Green a little bit, maybe the others too, to a degree, but I really put it on Green because he talks about it. So I know it's a big factor for him. And maybe the same thing's happening to Boston. I think teams that get really far in the playoffs often suffer from, it's like playing a video game. Like you play NBA 2K, right? And you build your guy up to a 95. It takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hundreds of games of work unless you cheat and buy the VC to do it, right? So, and then the new game comes out and you got to start as a 60 all over again. And you just have a hard time getting up to do it because it's just work. I think that this Celtics team mentally is approaching this season as just work. I don't think they're there mentally. I don't think they're charged up mentally at the level that they should be. And I watch this with Golden State in the regular season all the time. The only guy I see on Golden State that doesn't go through this is Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, to me, is the most important player on that team. But, like, I think Boston is going through a little bit of this, let's get to the playoffs mentality. I really do. And I think that's coaching. And I think that's just partly what is the mental composition of the people on your roster. I think this team is just kind of, going through the motions a little bit, thinking, okay, well, we'll turn it on when we need to. That's the risk in that is some teams do that, other teams can't. Like LeBron's Cavs could do that. These Warriors can do that. Other teams aren't able to do that. Milwaukee couldn't do that. I don't know that this Boston team will or won't. That remains to be seen. They haven't tried it yet. This will be the first time. But
well, that's the thing that worries me.
Right. Of course, it should.
The Warriors have done this for years.
Right, exactly.
This is just 1 year for Boston. They went that deep.
Exactly.
And that's scary.
Right, and they're already getting that type of fatigue. Look, I understand. But you asked me the question, that's what I think's happening. And maybe there's some ancillary factors. Look, there are some points of age on this roster. Al Horford's not getting any younger. Marcus Smart's not a kid anymore. I mean, he's not old, but with the style that you ask him to play, that's very much a young man's style, what you ask him to do. So, I mean, there are parts of this team that maybe a little youth is needed somewhere. Maybe they need a little extra something on their bench. Gallinari coming back might help at some point if he does. But I think more than anything, I think that just the mentality of that. When I watch this team, a lot of nights it looks like they're going through the motions to me.
I agree. And it's way too early in the string of runs.
Yes.
I mean, which is why the Warriors run is so impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Because for the number of years, they played a lot more games. Well, and so did the Cavs.
Well, see, to me, that's why
So did Miami. That's
exactly.
And it worries me with the Celtics because they haven't. And a lot of their guys are young.
Yeah, their two best players are, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Smart's not really that old.
No, he's not.
Williams is young.
Yeah.
Robert Williams, Grant Williams. They have a lot of young
Derek
guys.
White is still relatively young.
Yeah.
Yep. No, you're right. One other thing I'll say to that, you mentioned the Warriors and their longevity. You talk about San Antonio was like that for many years. Any great team that's had a more or less a decade or close to a decade run goes through the same thing. I mean, the Lakers under Shaq and Kobe, the Lakers under Kobe and Gasol certainly fit this bill, right? Like, I mean, there's a number of them. So
there are. But like I said, it's worrisome with this one.
No, I agree. Talk about worrisome. I'll tell you this, if I'm a fan of the New Orleans Pelicans, we need to get our guys healthy like ASAP. Look, you're talking no Zion, no Ingram, and no McCollum. Oh God, just don't play.
Yeah, but you can't just get guys healthy.
No, I know. It's not a magic wand, but I mean, if I'm a fan of that team, I'm concerned, particularly Williamson and Ingram. McCollum doesn't have this history of injuries.
Right.
But Zion does. Ingram, not so much. He's sort of in the middle, but he's been out a long time. I tell you what, I would be a little bit worried if I was a fan of the Pelicans. Just that they're not going to ever... It's kind of like the Anthony Davis thing, which they should understand better than anybody.
Yes.
Like, you just wonder if the right guys will be healthy long enough at the right time to give yourself the best chance to maximize this run. And And that's the problem with these guys who have injuries is you can't control when those injuries happen. Right?
Right.
So,
Right.
And that's the thing that would concern me if I'm New Orleans. Every year, no matter how good we look when we are healthy, I'd always be wondering, is the wrong guy going to get hurt at the wrong time? Because we have a history. Our top guys, unfortunately, have a history of getting hurt just in general. It's the same reason that
Zion's AD part 2 over there.
he is.
Or part 2, I should say, in New Orleans.
Duh.
French.
Yes.
French Quarter, you know.
That's right, yeah.
Long as we're on the NBA kick, I got a couple other teams I want to ask you about. I want your opinion.
Sure,
The Cavs drilled the Suns yesterday.
Yes.
I get it. They don't have Devin Booker. The Cavs didn't have Darius Garland, so that's a wash.
Yep.
What is wrong with Phoenix?
I think
outside of not having Devin Booker.
I think there's a couple of things.
Because they weren't that impressive when they had Booker.
Right. No, I think there's a couple of things. I think any team that relies heavily on Chris Paul has a couple of year window where it looks like it works and then things start to fray. I think his personality grates on people over time. I think that grading is being or attempted to be being absorbed by Monty Williams, the coach, who I think is the least grading person in the NBA, perhaps.
Right.
But what's happening is he's taking all that negative energy from Paul, trying to absorb it, and at times it leaks out, and we've seen it leak out the most with his dealings with Ayton, who certainly needs coaching, but I think Williams would normally coach Ayton in a more positive way. And at times, because of the negative energy he's absorbing dealing with Paul, that kind of comes out when he's dealing with other players. And I think it's having sort of a trickle down effect. It's almost like Williams is the filter, and then the filter has to expunge what it's absorbed somewhere and it's going to other people. Look, I think it's just I think the team is in a negative headspace right now because of the negative energy that permeates from Paul. Look, Paul is he's so over the top competitive, and that competitive nature is, in his case, often filtered in the wrong direction. And unfortunately, guys of that type of competitive nature, the ones that have made it work for them, are far better than Chris Paul. You know, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, guys like that. They're a lot better than Paul. So they won championships with that drive, even though they might have driven people away in the process. The end could justify the means. You can't say that with Chris Paul. I can't. I've always thought he's an overrated player. And I think that his history shows that after somewhere between 2 and 4 years, he wears out his welcome. And I think we've gotten to that point. If I was Phoenix, I don't think many people are thinking this yet. So if I was Phoenix, I would get on the phone discreetly now and see if I can get something reasonable for Paul.
It's going to be hard. What is he, 37?
Yeah, but he's still fairly productive. He enjoys a good reputation around the league in spite of everything I just said. I think you could get something for him. I do. Where would you send them? You might call the Lakers. You might call a team like maybe a team like I'm trying to think in the Eastern Conference, maybe Brooklyn. Probably not, but maybe Brooklyn.
Oh, he would never work with Kyrie.
I don't think so either. I think they would kill each other. But yeah, you never know with that organization. They always seem to be starstruck. I think maybe a team like maybe Dallas could use another ball handler. Looks like we got some news on Durant. Thank you, Dylan. Diagnosed with an MCL strain or sprain, excuse me, will be reevaluated in 2 weeks.
Oof.
There you go.
It's going to be a long 2 weeks.
And that's just to be reevaluated.
Well, that's for another evaluation.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds like a month injury to me.
Not good.
No, not good at all. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just gonna say, and if we get to a month, let's say that takes us to the early February, we're approaching the All-Star break. Do they bother at that point? Do they just let him sit through the All-Star break? I would be surprised if we saw Durant back on the court before the All-Star break at this point. That's gonna be my prediction.
I think it's more important to have him back after the break.
Oh, it is. Well, and that's why I think it's going to happen, because I think the timing, if he's reevaluated in 2 weeks, I think that he won't be healthy, quote unquote, for probably closer to 4. And if that's true, we're basically up against the All-Star break at that point. So they're going to take the may as well wait approach. That's what I
Right.
think is going to happen. I expect we don't see Durant again until after the All-Star break. With that news, that's my all too early prediction.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds about right. That's what I figured. 2 weeks was just another look, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
One more team.
Yeah.
And I'm too close to get on it. I'd rather have you talk about this. Man, what is wrong with the Clippers? They lost to a very middling Atlanta team yesterday at home. They're losing these games on a homestand.
Yeah.
They've lost to a Minnesota team that had no business winning. They lost to Atlanta in this recent string of losses. They've blown leads. I can't figure it out. I watch them play, and it looks like there's no joy in their game at all.
I think you hit on it. I think that's a big thing. I don't think this team has ever really liked playing together. And maybe more to the root of it than that, I've always gotten the sense, since they put this tandem of George and Kawhi together, because of the load management, the injuries, and everything else with both of them, more so Kawhi, but both of them, I think that this team has always had the feel of a pickup squad, a mercenary type team that just kind of came together last minute and tried to figure it out based on their talent. And I think that when you do that, those kind of situational moments that come up in games that determine the outcome of close games all the time, I think you're at a huge competitive disadvantage when you're not consistently and constantly playing together as a unit. And I feel that the in and out nature over these years, and it's a cumulative effect. I don't think it's just this year. I think it's a cumulative effect. I think the in and out nature of their two main guys is really the cause of this. And I think a secondary cause is the lack of skill diversity on this team. Unfortunately, their two best guys are essentially carbon copies of each other. They're more or less the same type of player, right? Like they more or less do the same things. So I think that their lack of skill diversity and lack of cohesion driven by their in and out of their two guys has been a big part of it. And I've heard, I don't know this, but I've heard that Kawhi sort of has a star complex a little bit that grades on his teammates in a kind of a passive aggressive, low key way. And I don't know what that means, but I figure I just throw it out there. But I think that's the big deal. Getting a question in the chat, bigger failure, Russ in LA or Gobert in Minnesota? Well, I think it's too early to tell exactly on Gobert in Minnesota, but right now, today, I would lean that way because of what I said earlier, which is since they've moved Russell Westbrook to sixth man, they've managed to really salvage that, and he's been a useful piece since that point. If we were to ask that question a month ago when he was still starting, I would have said Russell Westbrook without hesitation. Now, I'm going to say Gobert because they gave up an equal or maybe greater amount to get him, and they haven't figured it out yet. But like I said, it's still a little early. We're not comparing apples to apples. Westbrook's been there a year and a half. Gobert hasn't. So, but sitting here today, which situation would I rather be in? I would rather have Westbrook on the Lakers than Gobert on the Timberwolves. But, that still I can still change my mind on that based on how the rest of this plays out. But today I would say that.
Gobert looks out of place in Minnesota.
He does. He absolutely does.
I'm not going to say it's his fault because I don't think it is. Do you think, I'd like your opinion on this, that the Clippers would have been better off keeping those 5 draft picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander instead of trading for Paul George?
Oh, yes, without question. If for no other reason than Gilgeous-Alexander is readily available, doesn't get hurt very often. He did have an injury this year, but he's generally healthy. He's a very different style of player, so it kind of solves some of that skill duplication I was talking about, that redundancy. And I think that all of those extra draft assets, I don't think you use them in the draft, but they give you pieces to fill in pieces around your roster to augment and improve the roster organically. And I think, look, right now, forget going forward. Right now, today, head to head, Paul George at whatever he is, 32, 33, and Shai Gilgeous at like 10 years younger than that. Who's better today, this second? I don't even know that you can say Paul George is better than Alexander today, right now, let alone into the future. So even forgetting the age difference, just ability to ability in 2023, I think I might like Gilgeous-Alexander better anyway.
I got nothing.
So there you go. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue on. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch. Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
Okay, a couple other questions in the chat that are worth getting to. Austin's very active today. He asked if the Lakers had never gotten LeBron James, and they had a team of Randall, Ball, Hart, Kuzma, and Ingram, would they want a title? I said absolutely not. No way.
No.
Yeah. I did say I think that had they kept those guys, gotten LeBron, but not gotten Davis, I could see a scenario where they might have won that way too. But no LeBron, no title. That's I think pretty cut and dry. The other question going a little bit further up, asking about Joel Embiid and where does he go down in the all-time big man list. The problem for him is this is a very busy list. It's hard to crack much above like the top 7, because I mean, when you get past like the top 6 or so guys, you start talking about people like Olajuwon, Shaq, Kareem, Wilt, Russell. I mean, that group right there is like pretty much impossible to crack. I mean, I could see him being perceived long-term as better than Shaq. Maybe that's about as high watermark for me. I don't think he'll ever be perceived as better than Kareem, Russell, Hakeem, or Wilt. So I think he could crack the top 6 or 7, maybe. And I think that's about what you can expect. Because the problem, the challenge, not the problem, the challenge with this type of thing too, is what is expected of Embiid as a big man in 2023 is so radically different than what the big men of those different eras I just talked about did. And the people doing the kind of hypothetical comparisons in their mind are going to judge Embiid's performance off of their expectation of big men, which is more colored by the previous generation. So it's a tough argument for Embiid to win in. I will say this, and we've talked about this before. Embiid, along with Olajuwon, probably has the best footwork of any center that's ever existed.
True. I think the thing for him to get on that list, no more injuries.
Yes.
I mean, he's missed full seasons.
Yes. That's very true.
And that's always going to be the issue with him. I don't care if he misses games here and there, but when you miss them in clumps, it's an issue.
No, it's true. No, it's a fair point. All right. Some breaking news. Cardinals have fired head coach Cliff Kingsbury. Well, that finally happened. What took so long? It
should have happened longer ago.
Yeah, what took so long? So there's that one. All right, we got a couple of minutes. What do we got for some news you can use today?
Hey, pickleball soars to 37 million players in the U.S. Interesting. Do you think this league has a chance to do anything?
This is what I think with this. I think it will do something, but I think it's going to be like a hot flame that burns out in like a 5 to 10 year stretch. You know what it reminds me of? Very similar. So I could see it having similar television and commercial success, but over a short period of time before it kind of reverts. It reminds me of when poker got crazy from like 2001 to like 2008 or 9. And then it kind of, it's still like around, it's still like a thing, but it's sort of in the background. It's on background channels later at night. There was a time from like 2003 to like 2008 or so, like a 5 or 6 year window where poker was on like ESPN, like shortly after Sports Center.
Right.
Like, so I could see pickleball having like a little like random golden age like that. And then kind of being on like ESPN2, ESPN News, something like that, the way poker is now. That's what I think is going to happen.
I think it's going to find its niche. I feel the same way. I think it'll be okay. It'll do something, and it'll find its niche. It'll fit in. I mean, come on, cornhole's televised. I think this will find its.
I do too. What I'm saying is, I think what it's going to look like over the next 8 years and what its permanent long-term niche are very different. I think it's going to look like poker did in the early 2000s for the next 5 or so years. And then I think it's going to look like poker does now kind of going forward, which is to say it will have a role, but it won't be like a huge role.
Right.
That's what I think. But it is funny. The only question I have about pickleball, are we playing with dill, bread and butter, or horseradish? Because I like all three.
Oh, I say a mixture.
Just can't make a decision, Rich. Indecisive. Come on.
Depending on the league. One will use dill. Bread and butter are more chips, so that's not...
Those are for snacking or frying. That's what you make frickles out of, or bread and butter pickles. That's what you make them out of.
Are you kidding? I'll put a fork in a jar of those and
just go to town, right?
Plow through it. Yes.
Well, you're civilized. You use a fork. Man, I use God's forks, man. I got my fingers. Let's go.
Not me. I want to get those seeds off. Hey, may we be no longer embracing debate?
Uh-oh.
Is this the beginning of the end for Skip Bayless at Fox Sports?
I have a hard...
That's what the chatter is.
I hope not. Well, for one thing, it's a bad sign, like I said before. But not to reiterate my rant from a couple days ago. So the other piece of it is, let's just be real about it. He's one of the main reasons to tune into that channel. I mean, he is absolutely a driver of eyeballs. He is. And that would be, I believe, short-sighted by a network that is usually not short-sighted.
Right. That I agree with.
I'm going to say that he survives. I think he survives.
Isn't it funny, though, that none of his peers are backing him, but the one person that's backing him is Stephen A. Smith?
That is pretty funny.
Stephen A's loyal.
Yep.
Nothing else.
Yep.
He's loyal. Michigan's Jim Harbaugh to interview for Broncos coaching job. Not again. Either sign or don't. Get this over with, please. You're killing me.
I mean, if they're not going to be able to get Peyton, Harbaugh is the guy.
Why didn't Harbaugh sign when they made him when they negotiated the offer?
I don't know. I can't answer that, but that certainly happens where people interview for jobs. I mean, look what happened with Steve Cohen. He was going to buy the Mets, then he wasn't. He was gone for a while, and then boom, he bought the team. So we'll see.
Raptors' Fred VanVleet denies a report that he turned down a $114 million extension before the season.
I hope he's right I hope he's telling the truth there, because that's a lot of money for a Fred VanVleet to turn down. Unless he was getting
4 years, $114 million, about maybe 27 a year.
Was he getting his financial contract advice from Victor Oladipo or Dennis Schroeder? I hope not.
I hope not too. I don't think he. I don't see why he would turn that.
Yeah,
down.
I
It
don't.
makes no
either.
sense.
It doesn't make any sense. That's plenty rich enough for Fred VanVleet. All right, we got time for one more. What else we got?
Zinedine Zidane rejected an offer to coach the U.S. men's national soccer team.
Because
I don't watch the U.S. men play, but I'm sad about that because I love watching him flip out.
Yeah, you see that the reason he rejected it is they said you could not have free headbutts in practice. So
this guy loses his temper over a lunch order. It's amazing.
All I know about Zidane is he's the guy that headbutted someone in the chest during the World Cup, the end of his playing career. That's everything I'll ever know about the guy, and I think that's hilarious.
And that's typical for him. So wouldn't have made that an interesting hire? It might have been worth checking out.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be turning it on the same reason you turned on Ozzie Guillen or Billy Martin back in the day, or Earl Weaver or Lou Piniella. What are these crazy idiots going to do?
Right. Gotta love it.
You missed that. I missed that in sports, man. I mean, as much as I rag on Greg Popovich for being a grump, the fact that he'll say crazy things like, oh, I'll just put a 5-point shot in and make it a total circus. The fact that he'll say stuff like that is wonderful. I need people like that.
It is. It is. Well, I mean, first, it's comic relief.
Oh, it's great.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need it.
We need guys like that. We really do. It's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the manager of the oh God, what's this guy's name on the I'll think of it tomorrow. But there are one or two younger managers out there who have some personality. Dan Campbell. There you go. He'll say stuff and he's not old. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the guys that still have some character are older guys now. And it's like, man, don't all let the old guys all die and retire, and then we're left with a bunch of androids. We need some personalities, man. Personality matters. It does.
This is why I wanted to see Zidane come here. I might have actually checked out a game.
Absolutely. You know your team's not very exciting when you watch for the manager, but hey, that's a different story. Well, there you go. That's where we'll leave it today. Great show today.
Oh man, we needed another hour today, Gary.
Yeah, today was good stuff. Today was great stuff. We'll be back tomorrow with 2 more hours on the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.